Alright everyone, we've reached Friday. This is the final morning briefing from the Celtic Way this week. And it's been a busy old week, guys. I was just saying I'm quite looking forward to my weekend. I'll still be thinking about Celtic, still be talking about Celtic and stuff like this, but I'm looking forward to the weekend and the match on Sunday. How are you both today, Tony, Ryan? How's it going?
I'll let you take the floor, Tony.
Okay, I'm fine, good. Always good to have a wee day off and deal with dogs, Al, and see parents, stuff like that. But nice day off. So it's always good to be back. It's always good to be back talking Celtic. As you say, you never really switch off, do you?
No, and maybe things are starting to happen transfer-wise. I mean, they really have to be because we've only got a couple of weeks to go, Ryan, and we need still a number of positions filled. So it's going to be an exciting few weeks.
Yeah, there are positions that need to be strengthened and reinforced, and you're hoping that by the end of the window, Celtic are able to do that, and then some. Couple of names coming back, maybe some names that we've heard before being linked with the club. Alvin Sanchez, who I put in the description just at the last minute there. There's been some talk about him over the past 24 hours. So that's a name that circled before the Euros, I believe. I believe his name was circling right before the Euros started, but it's came back up. That's now 2 times he's been linked. So there might be something credible in the link. So that's something we can definitely talk about. But yeah, there's positions that need to be strengthened and there's positions that could potentially need to be strengthened as well if certain outgoings happen in the form of Matt O'Reilly especially, which seems to be the main talking point. One of the main talking points across Europe at the moment is Matt O'Reilly, and will he go to Atalanta, will he go somewhere else? So yeah, he's right in the thick of it, but I'm hoping that he can keep his professionalism and put in another good performance on Sunday. I'm sure he will.
Yeah, I think he'll be absolutely fine. I was going to bring up the whole should we start him on Sunday, but I think after last Friday, I'll just let you two just simmer away. We might find another topic that gets you both going later. It's been a busy old week, hasn't it? We've got stuff to chat about today, everyone. So yeah, lovely to have you all with us. Great numbers this week, I think, summing up that everyone's feeling pretty good, or certainly invested in Celtic right now. I know we're always invested, but even more so right now. We do have this right now, guys, don't we?
We certainly do. Until Sunday night, I believe. Sunday at midnight is the cut-off point for this new season sale. We thank everybody that's joined us and taken up this offer, which is kicking off the new season in style with a year of the Celtic Way for only £12. On there you'll get statistical content, analytical, scouting pieces, opinion pieces, full match press conferences, which we write out. We write out every single word that goes on the press conference. That won't change. That'll happen today with Brendan Rodgers as well. When we get the audio or video file, we'll write it up, just so that you can skim through everything without needing to go and even watching the videos. And the fact that we highlight the question as well, we bold it so that you can actually just skim through and get the answers that you want to get, rather than needing to skip through all the video and maybe hit about 500 ads while you're doing so. So that's definitely that's on the website. We've got instant analysis, player ratings as well. So it's a great offer, £12 for a full year. That'll be you sorted until the middle of August next year. So if you are interested, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe, and yeah, get involved. And we thank everybody that's done so far. The numbers have been really good, so appreciate it.
Yes, Idah met the media for the first time as a permanent Celtic player yesterday. Had the usual various commitments with the broadcast media, the written media. He had fan media as well. What did we make of it, Tony? He's an interesting character. The way he answers questions, you get the impression he's not that fussed half the time, but he also gives pretty good answers. It's a kind of strange one.
He's pretty laid back, isn't he? But
That's the word.
Yeah, too cool for school and relax, simmer. What was all the fuss about? He knew where he wanted to be. He knew where he was going to be headed.
He's talking about all you in the comments, guys. He's talking about you in the comments. Because we were definitely all perfectly calm for the last 5 or 6 weeks, definitely.
I was quite calm about it, I'd say.
You were?
I was. I'm not running away from that. I always felt he was going to be a Celtic player from the minute Roger spoke about him in the Hampden Auditorium. And I just thought, right, okay, no, tick, mark that, he'll come, just a question of when.
And Adam Idah seems to have felt the same way, based on what he said.
I think Adam Idah was told go back to Norwich, as I said before, jump through their hoops, but we'll see you before the season starts or at some point in August. So, because Adam Idah said himself, I had a great summer. I went on holiday. I was chilled. I was relaxed. I left stuff in Glasgow. I had storage units in Glasgow. So, what's the big deal? And then I'm here to score goals for Celtic. I'm here to win trophies. The Champions League being a big thing for him. People saying, can he do it in the Champions League, or he's not the man to take Celtic forward in the Champions League. We will find that out in the fullness of time. But I think you'll find the big man is raring to go, and having had a taste of that great success that he can have at Celtic, he will be busting a gut and giving his all. It doesn't matter who they play in Europe. Big man will be right up for the task. And I think that's the biggest and ringing endorsement of someone who loves you and wants you to be at the club. The Celtic manager saying, "You're now with us. Just get to the job at hand, and that's scoring domestically and in Europe." And I think he's right up for the challenge, and he can't wait.
Andrew making me laugh. He's saying, listening to Idah's accent, I wonder how Kyogo's going picking up the language playing in this squad. I'd love to hear a conversation between Adam Idah and Kyogo, because I must say, I mean, no offence to any, it's a Cork accent, isn't it? I actually quite like the Cork accent, Roy Keane, etc. I've got family who live in Cork, but Adam Idah, he's quite difficult to pick up, because I was doing a bit of subtitling for his stuff yesterday, and he's as I say, he's quite difficult to pick up what he's saying sometimes, but I think he's, as you say, Tony, he's just really laid back, and the thing I love about him is he does his talking on the pitch.
Yeah,
I love that, and he's going to continue to do that, Ryan.
Yeah, without a doubt. Brendan Rodgers has already got his answer lined up. That universal language of football. That's the language that Kyogo and Adam Idah, maybe not at the same time, because I don't think they'll play with two up front, but it's a very much a Brendan Rodgers quote, that is for sure. I thought his press conference yesterday was really good. I've seen some not so good press conferences over the past couple of days. One in particular being Michael Olise at Bayern Munich. If you've got his maybe one or two word answers. So Adam Idah was definitely given detailed answers compared to the likes of other players that went for even more money and have even more media responsibilities. But I just think I thought some of his answers were really good yesterday. I thought he explained the situation of missing the flight really well. He resolved that. He was talking about still being in the Celtic group chat, so he showed a bit of humour as well. You can tell he's a popular player within that dressing room. You only had to look at the Instagram comments when he signed. Alistair Johnson, Lewis Palmer, even players that have left the club, and Shane Duffy, Shea Given as well. They're all buzzing to see him kick on and get that move to Celtic. Clearly a popular member of the dressing room. And yeah, it's good that they've got another good egg in that dressing room, because Brendan Rodgers doesn't really deal with anything of the opposite, to be honest.
And that was another thing that really got in my wick about, people saying he had a bad attitude and because he missed a flight. I mean, I could not understand that narrative, and I called it out, because I was just like, come on, the manager just would not have a player who's bad for dressing room morale and harmony in that squad right now. And you only had to speak to players and managers who'd managed them and players who'd played alongside them. He was highly popular, nothing of the sort. And then you were getting people saying in 2 years' time he could kick up a stink and want to leave Celtic. And I'm just like, seriously? I mean, in 2 years' time you're hoping people are coming in from him and you've doubled or trebled your money. And on Adam Idah, I mean, you want every bit of success for him. I want him to stay there 5 years. I think he's a player that's born to play for Celtic and born to score goals for Celtic. So I really couldn't get my head around this narrative that he was a troublemaker or some kind of bad influence. So thankfully that's been nailed in the head as well, Hamish.
Yeah, and he actually spoke really respectfully, I thought, of Norwich City yesterday, when maybe someone else who'd been in that position, and I don't think he has a particularly great relationship with the Norwich fans. I don't know if you guys noticed, I need to double check this, because I only kind of half glanced at it, but in his Instagram post he put, I don't think he thanked the fans, I think he thanked like the club and the management and all that. So I don't think he's a huge fan of the fans, but in terms of Norwich as a club, he was really respectful yesterday, when it would have been quite easy to talk about how he maybe was treated there, and the fact that I think there was various things have gone on prior to Celtic that that maybe weren't ideal. So I thought he just spoke brilliantly yesterday. I can't wait to see him on Sunday. Ryan's got him down for a start. Tony, have you got him down for a start?
I think so. I think it's an ideal game, isn't it? Introduce him.
Yeah.
And Kyogo, whilst we've said that Kyogo's played well, the one thing that's been missing from Kyogo's game in these 2 games so far is goals. And he's missed a couple of chances. So the manager might just say, you know what? Fancy the big man here. See if he can. And you want him to score on his second debut for Celtic, don't you? So maybe give him.
Is that what we're calling it? Second, because I heard re-debut and I heard other things.
Homecoming, I don't know, whatever you want to call it.
I like that. Homecoming, yeah.
Homecoming, yeah. So, but yeah, I think you would maybe give him the opportunity to do that, wouldn't you? And just get himself off to a flyer, ingratiate himself with the fans again, and get the roar from the crowd. And I think he'll fancy himself to score. He is buzzing about this. He's the one that's as happy as anything. I think you said it the other day when Chris Sutton said it's great for Celtic, it's great for Norwich, it's great for the player. The player himself is like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me, and could well be in his football career. So I think he's embraced it, and I thought he spoke really well about the fee as well. He just sort of went, it's not going to be an albatross round my neck.
But I believe him as well. I believe him.
I can't do anything about that. So it's always like that. You're only worth what someone's willing to pay for you. You don't set that. You don't set that barrier or that level. He's just like that. Look, I'm a football player. I score goals. If that means I cost X amount, so be it. It's not going to stop me from doing what I do naturally. And I loved that. It was just like, it's not even a concern, because I remember when Chris Sutton signed. I was one of them. I met him outside the door at Celtic Park, and I was pretty young and naive then. And I said to him, "You've been labelled a £10 million flop at Chelsea." I said, "Do you think you can turn your career around up in Glasgow?" And he went, "Who's labelled me a £10 million flop?" I went, "Well, it's kind of that." And he was like, "You guys like you." I was like, oh. That way. And I didn't know what to do. I was kind of like, but he was kind of laughing, And I said, and he said to me, as in terms of resurrecting my career in Glasgow, and he said that famously to me, "I'm not here for a look around, son." And I was like, all right. And then he was there about 12 hours, and then he came back out, and I was still there. And then he spoke to me, and he gave me everything. But it was just kind of, that way you're just like, guys, football players don't determine their value. It's determined by other factors, and they don't really care. Yeah. They just want to play football, So that was the point I'm driving at. He just wasn't caring about the whole kind of, your $9.5 million or making that a big thing in his life.
Yeah. But it's one thing saying it, but I also believe him when he says that's a big thing. Ryan?
Yeah, I just want to bring up the comment that he did make, because I think he did allude to that in his press conference as well, about the connection or lack of connection he had with the Norwich fans. So he was asked, why do you think it's the case? What is it about the club that gives you that confidence that you're going to kick on and succeed? And he replied saying, the connection I had with people, but not just the players and the staff, but the fans, they make the difference. I didn't have the best connection or treatment with the fans at Norwich, so it does make a difference. Those are the words that came out of his mouth. He clearly has he does have a special relationship because of the way it ended with the fans at Celtic, but that's something that can be worked on even more so. And I think it's going to be like a hero's welcome on Sunday, regardless if he starts or if he comes off the bench. He will be making an appearance. The roar of the crowd is going to be something else. And for Paulo Bernardo as well, to be fair. I know he made his debut or his re-debut against Hibs. The first time he comes onto the park at Celtic Park, or if he starts by any chance, there will be a roar for those two players because they were pivotal in winning Celtic the Scottish Cup. I just think it's a perfect move for the player, perfect move for Norwich because they get a good fee for their asset. I thought it was lovely comments from their manager as well. He says that he's got all the attributes to be a Premier League striker. He wanted him to stay, but he understood his decision. So it doesn't seem like there's any sour grapes with anything here. It's good to see that, and I'm just glad he's at Celtic now and he's a permanent player, and now we can actually speak of him in those terms rather than just being a lone player and worrying about where his future lies. His future's at Celtic.
Name me a Celtic supporter that's not excited about Adam Idah. Please, somebody come in the comments and tell me they're not excited about Adam Idah.
Someone's going to do it now, Tony. Now you've asked him, someone's going to wind you up and do it.
That's fine, but they're telling lies. So because I've just challenged them to do it. Every Celtic supporter is buzzing for this guy. Having heard them yesterday, they're even more buzzing for this guy. They just want to see him out on the pitch and doing what he did. Because last season, if you want to know what 9.5 million gets you, it gets you what it got you last season. It got you entrance to the millions that you're going to get in the Champions League. It got you 2 wonderful goals at Fir Park, turned the game on its head. It got you 2 cool penalties at Easter Road. It got you a goal at Ibrox, and it got you the winner in the Scottish Cup final. For a starter, that's a sample size. And that's a guy who never played every one of those games. He came on and affected those games. So his goals to minutes ratio is terrific. So can you imagine a full season with this guy, a full 5 seasons, if he stays there 5 years? I am. And it's pretty exciting to think that this guy could terrorise Scottish defences and take it on to the next level in Europe as well. I'm desperate to see him in Europe, to see what he's like. Against Champions League teams, and I think the manager sees that too. He sees somebody, the raw material there, that's somebody who could go on and prove himself to be a right good goal scorer for this football club.
Yeah, I was doing a bit of research earlier into Kyogo and Idah, and when you mentioned the goals per minute record, Kyogo, this is since Idah signed in January. Kyogo managed a goal every 142 minutes. Idah was every 91 minutes. Now, I know it's a bit skewed because it's easier probably to come on as a sub and score. The point I really want to make is, of all the minutes that were available since Idah joined in January, Kyogo played 58% of those minutes last season. Idah played 42% on the pitch in terms of the total amount. I know there was periods when they were on the pitch together, but basically their time was very equal, and I think we're going to see something similar, probably even more equal this year. I think Brendan Rodgers is viewing it as having 2 number 1 strikers, and it's going to be great to see how it plays out. So I think all 3 of us have got Idah in for a start on Sunday. That would be magic. You want to talk about midfielders, Ryan? Were you speaking to someone yesterday to get a bit of insight?
Yes, I was. I was speaking to the voice of EAFC yesterday, Derek Ray, about Albert, if I can say his name, Arne Engels. Now, people have been saying it's Engels, but I've got it under good authority that it's Engels for the player. You don't pronounce the G. So, yeah, I spoke to him for a good 20 minutes yesterday about the player, about the Augsburg player, and the reasons, why Celtic have been linked with the player, why the other Bundesliga teams, the other 10 that finished above Augsburg, didn't go in for him. And it was a great chat just in general about German football and the way it works and how they deal with their transfers. Transfer windows, the deadline day doesn't really happen in Germany unless it has to. It's basically one of those days it's like, right, it's the final day of the window. It's not like a massive showpiece. And I think that's just across the board now as well. You see a lot of teams doing their business at the start and the middle of the window rather than cranking it up at the end. Celtic might be an exception to that rule this summer, you would hope, and they'll get the players in. But no, I learned about the player. He's more of a defensive midfielder, is what I was told, than an attacking midfielder that people are talking about. But I think he's still trying to figure out his position. And I was making the point yesterday that Callum McGregor didn't know his position until he was, 23, 24. He was playing everywhere until he got that settled area in which he played 200, 300, 400 games pretty consistently. 20 years old. He's very much part of the next generation with Belgium as well, the Red Devils under Domenico Tedesco, alongside the likes of Onana, etc. All of these young players, Jeremy Doku. Round about that, he's not made the breakthrough into the Belgium's first team yet, but he's very highly rated, and he probably will in the coming years, especially if he makes a move to Celtic. That didn't hurt Boyata in the past. He was still playing for Belgium, even though he was playing for Celtic. So that could be a move for him. I was also told under good authority that Scottish football might not be a challenge for Engels because he would potentially just walk it because he's that good.
Wow.
In Germany, apparently. 20 years old, and he's... I think there's a bit of a surprise that maybe more teams aren't in for him. He's maybe not to that level yet, but now is probably the time to get him, because if you don't get him now and he has a good season, the Leipzigs come in, the Dortmunds come in, Stuttgart, Bayern Munich, I was going to mention Leipzig again there, but yeah, all these teams will come in and make a bid for him. So if Celtic are going to get him, now is the time. But unfortunately, that would probably mean O'Reilly has to go the other way. But even then, it looks as if Atalanta are potentially in for an alternative player. The name escapes me, but I know that they were linked last night. Fabrizio Romano was talking about another player, another attacking midfielder. So it's definitely one to watch this space with Engels, but a very, very solid profile and a player that's only going to get better as the years go on. But only 20 years old, and he's made 51 appearances in the Bundesliga. So he's pretty much a stalwart from them since joining from Bruges.
Yeah, I think it's the kind of profile of player that we would certainly be happy with. I would be happy with it if O'Reilly is to move on. I mean, the ideal scenario still for me is O'Reilly stays, because I think O'Reilly's a £25 million player, but Engels sounds decent enough. Tony, do you like the sound of that for Ryan?
I like the sound of both of them, Engels and Sanchez. So either or, because they both fit the profile. They're both young and they're both, obviously one has a higher value than the other. So, and it's been made aware through various media outlets that Celtic are interested in both. Read into that what you will. If Matt goes to Celtic, go the high-end, top shelf replacement midfielder, or do they go kind of middle shelf with someone like Sanchez? But I just kind of this has been made that public knowledge through media outlets, just to see the mood music surrounding both. I think Celtic supporters would be happy with either or. I think the ideal scenario is they want Matt O'Reilly to stay. Of course we do. But it's just good to see that Celtic are kind of moving in the right kind of way in terms of their forward planning and their strategic thinking with this. I'm looking at both of them. I think you're probably you're seduced by Engels a wee bit, aren't you? In terms of his work, But if you look at Sanchez as well, he's got over 100 games for Lausanne. He's one of the hottest properties in Swiss football, up and coming properties. So again, we've always spoken about this, getting these players at the right time. You wait for a year, you're not getting Engels at all. So you've got to sign him now. And if you wait for a year on Sanchez, you ain't going to get him either, because that $4.5 million price tag's going to just skyrocket. So if Celtic are going to get one of these players under the proviso that they sell Matt O'Reilly, it has to be now. So we shall see. But I just like the thinking behind it. Certainly there seems to be a wee bit of there is a wee bit of forward planning there by the looks of it. And in the ideal world, one of the commenters there said, why not sign both? 15 million quid you would get the pair, one at 10 million, one at 4.5. That's dream scenario, but you just know that's not the way Celtic operate. If that was the case, you would have brought in both Idah and Majowski, send out the biggest statement ever, you know what I mean? But it was never going to happen, was it? So I'm happy to be linked with, but I've always said before, links are great. You prefer signings, don't you? But it's all premised on Matt O'Reilly leaving. And I've got to be honest, I just don't want that to happen. But and we all feel the same way, don't we? But as the clock ticks down, 2 weeks today, we'll be on tenterhooks, waiting to see if Celtic can hold on to the most prized asset. But it's, as I say, it's a real tightrope or high wire game. This, isn't it? In the sense of that. If Matt O'Reilly goes, then so be it. You have to prepare. Celtic have to prepare for that, but they have to go and strike with irons hot in terms of getting one of these two guys in to replace him. They can't wait. They just can't. They can't afford to, basically.
Yeah, smell the glove, making a point that I knew would be made. Buy Engels now, let him settle in, sell Matt O'Reilly in January or next summer. That is something that we did under Ange Postecoglou. I can't remember exactly who with. I know Johnson came in before Juranovic, but I feel like there was another example of I would think it was with Giakoumakis, wasn't it? Obviously didn't massively work out there, but the club did do that in the past. And I guess the issue with bringing someone like Engels in now, and if we do keep O'Reilly, there might be too many bodies in that midfield, given that we now have Bernardo there as well. Maybe too many players wanting game time. I don't think it's and maybe someone like Engels would want more guaranteed game time. I don't think it's a bad idea though to have your replacements coming in a bit before your players leave, if you know they're going to leave. I guess the issue Celtic have right now is they don't know, and we don't know for sure that Matt O'Reilly's going to leave, and we still hope that he stays. I think we all know the situation with Matt O'Reilly. I don't think there's anything going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. The club have a valuation of Matt O'Reilly, and when that is met, Matt O'Reilly's, they'll shake hands with Matt O'Reilly and wish him on his way, and he'll make us a hell of a lot of money. Until that moment, Matt O'Reilly's going to stay with us, and there's going to be no issue with that at all. You can see that the way he's playing so far, that'll keep up. So I guess that's where we're at with Matt O'Reilly. But I do think it's interesting. There's more midfielders coming up now. We've had the two you just mentioned, Engels and Sanchez. We even had Luke McCowan the other day. There've been a number of players. Tanner Tessman. There was a guy playing in MLS, wasn't there? So we've had a number of names mentioned. So I feel like things are ramping up, and that may be a sign that the club feel that maybe the offer for Matt O'Reilly isn't too far away.
Yeah, I just think the valuation of Matt O'Reilly and the bids that have been going in, Atalanta will have that money when Koopmeiners gets sold. So it's that bridge. If Atalanta want the player, they're going to stump up the cash to get the player if they want the replacement for Koopmeiners. If Koopmeiners doesn't leave, and by all accounts he's very much out of the squad. He wasn't in the Super Cup squad for Atalanta. He wants to move to Juventus to play under Thiago Motta in that new look Juventus side. If that happens, then I would expect Matt O'Reilly to go to Atalanta, and it'd be a good move for him because he's playing in the Champions League, he's playing in Serie A. I think he'd only be there for a season or two before making a move to the likes of Juventus or the Premier League. I think it's a stopgap before he moves on to his next thing, because he'll show everybody how good that he is. But in an ideal world, I would want him to stay for another season. I think we've only scratched the surface with Matt O'Reilly. I hope that's the case. I hope we can see even better this season. I think he could keep up those numbers. I think he could be even more consistent next season in goals and assists. I think the sky's the limit for Matt O'Reilly. I don't think there's any... Celtic have put a valuation out there. If it's met, then he'll go. But if it isn't met, then they'll hold on to the player. And he's a consummate professional, so he's going to just play his football and play his game and work hard. He's just... not a perfect footballer, but he's a perfect individual to have in your team, and he's the sort of personality that Brendan Rodgers likes to have in his team. A guy that he can rely on, a guy that won't have his head turned or won't allow his head to be turned too much. Although the Atletico Madrid, you understand why that was the case for a couple of games, but the character of the player to come back, and he was Celtic's best player post-split in my opinion, or one of them. So it just shows you he's just a consummate professional, and for however long he's at the club, he'll be adored by the people that watch him.
Yeah, it might just be a case of savouring Matt O'Reilly, and we'll hopefully get to savour him on Sunday. Although we did get a comment asking if O'Reilly should be rested this weekend. Would you make many changes, Tony? You're already shaking your head. Would you make many changes generally?
I think we're talking. We spoke the other day. Would you want Sinazalo to come in and play the cup games? That's a change that I'm all for, and I'm not against it. If he goes with Kasper Schmeichel, I'm all for that as well. So it just comes down to what the manager might want to see, and I guess Idah up front. I just think everybody's excited to see him, so just unleash him from the start. Protect Kyogo because he went off injured, didn't he, last week? And that's no slight on Kyogo, because I've said all week that Kyogo's had a brilliant contribution in the past couple of games. He just hasn't scored, and he's missed a couple of chances. So the situation's right for just to say to Idah, right, on you go, do your thing, and no other changes as far as I can see. I wouldn't make any other changes. You don't have to, do you?
Ralston could come in.
I think that might happen if Johnson's still feeling tight in his hamstring. He was taken off as a bit of a precaution late on against Hibs, so hopefully the manager updates the media this afternoon with that, because if that's the case, then Ralston can do a job. Ralston can come in, especially at home. You trust Ralston to put balls into the box and give that intensity for the 90 minutes or for however long he's on. But if Alistair Johnson's fit, more often than not, Alistair Johnson's going to start. He's pretty much one of the first names on the team sheet.
Yep. You go, Hamish, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up Martin's comment. He's saying no changes, Hamish. We experimented last season, lost out. No changes except Idah. No experiments. I get that. I think everyone's probably a little bit wounded from that last year. I was looking up the team that we actually fielded against Kelly last year, and I'm not even going to read it out, guys, because it's a bit scary. We had like Lagerbielka and Naropsky as our two centre backs. I think Holm was in there for his first start. The subs were like Yang, Haksabanovic and Turnbull. So I think we've come a long way from a year ago. I get why people are a little like, no, and I'm not saying. I think there's a difference between changing the entire team and changing a few positions. I think with it being the cup, I think I'd be a fan of Sinizalo coming in. We've said that before. Make him our cup goalkeeper, at least until you get to Hampden, and then maybe you go back to Schmeichel or whatever. Ralston would come in for me. Bernardo, I'd probably start Bernardo and Idah. What's that, 4 changes? And maybe Maida would come in as well. So in the face of it, that's quite a few changes actually, but I don't think it's weakening the team at all, really. Like, there's not a big drop off from me from Kyogo to Idah, which is a mad thing to say given how much we all love Kyogo, but it shows how highly we rate Idah. Yes, okay, Johnson's clearly a better player than Ralston, but I think Anthony Ralston's fine for a game like Sunday. So I would make a few changes, but I'm not talking about experimenting and risking progress in the cup or anything like that. I got a few comments. Francis asking, is it 15 days left of the window? 14, I believe, isn't it?
It's August the 30th, Friday, August the 30th, the last day of the window. It usually goes to the 31st, but it's August the 30th is the last day of the window this time. 11:30 it closes as well, which is a bit strange.
Charlie, not to rain anyone's parade, but the squad is still basically the same as the one that finished last season, and we're having a party to celebrate that. Would you not say that having signed a couple of players who were only on loan last year is quite a big thing? We now have Bernardo and Idah signed up for a decade combined, when previously we only had them for a matter of months each. So I do think the club deserve credit. It's like, if we hadn't assigned Idah and Bernardo, people would be queuing up to have a go at why we haven't signed them. So we can't have it both ways. I agree. I think we all agree, Charlie, the squad still needs work done to it. No one's stopping at this point and going, right, that's been a good window, fine, we'll go with the left back we have and we'll go with the centre backs we have. We know what needs done, but equally, it is good business to get Idah and Bernardo back, guys, no?
Everybody's been a good signing so far as we know, and I made that point yesterday. We're not signing projects, we're signing good projects, players that we think that are going to really help the team in the years to come. But these players are going to start games. Bernardo's going to start a game now and then, with hopefully a view to starting every game next season, you would hope, once he's up to that level. I think bringing in another midfielder could be the making of Bernardo, weirdly enough, because I think then he'll fly under the radar and be able to develop at his own pace, get used to the physicality, even more so of the Scottish League, be there when called upon. He's still going to get 45 good games this season, in my opinion. He'll be a real instrumental figure. Hopefully get more goals and assists to his name as well. I'm sure those numbers will improve too. Sinisalo he can develop in the background under the watchful eye of both Stevie Woods and Kasper Schmeichel, his idol, so that works. Adam Idah, we know what he can do. He can take the burden off of Kyogo of being the only goal scorer, because they can both chip in. I don't want one of them to be scoring 40, 45 goals this season. I want them both to be scoring 20, so that the goals are spread out equally. That's how a good strike force works. Goals and assists. If they can get 50, 60 goal contributions between them, I don't think anybody will be complaining if they're making and scoring goals. So yeah, I think all their signings have been good. I think they've strengthened in the goalkeeping area in terms of depth and individual quality. And let's just see what happens in the remaining 14 days. I've got no doubts that Celtic are going to sign at least another 2, maybe even 3 players.
Yeah.
You Hamish to sign a centre back, left back, and a midfielder. See if they pull that off, everybody will be delighted. Mm-hmm. But you have to start somewhere, and the 2 players that will come in will have, or the 3 players that will come in, or 4 if you count Sinizalo as well, which I guess you have to, are going to enhance our team. So, there's a difference. A lot of the commenters are saying that Celtic fans celebrated wildly when Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers were signed permanently. So I think it's a similar situation. They've signed Bernardo and Idah permanently, so they'll improve your team. I don't understand this. You're standing still, or you've not improved. They weren't Celtic players. They are now Celtic players, bona fide Celtic players. So they'll improve your team moving forward. 2 goalkeepers, there's forward planning there. So now we have positions that the manager says he's vastly aware of that need filled. Celtic have 2 weeks to fill those positions. And then you will judge. The manager has said all along, judges at the end of the window. It's 2 weeks now to the end of the window, and we will see how improved our squad is by the August the 30th. Can't be any fairer than that. They can't see anything fairer than that. And by all the accounts and what you're reading in the media, they're going about their business in the right way by scouting certain players. Probably the lack of a left back and a centre half is a worry at this minute in time. But I don't think they're not on that. It's just you haven't heard any links or any names yet that excite you, or you would think, right, okay, let's follow through on this. But believe me, the manager's all over it. He'll get asked again today. And I think, like Ryan, I'm hopeful of getting 2 of those. 3, I don't know if they'd be willing to do that, but it just depends. Again, a lot of that's premised on Matt O'Reilly leaving, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I still think they would be able to bring in a left back and a centre back. They need that for Champions League purposes, big time, and they'll need a replacement if he goes. They're imperative for Champions League competitiveness. So we shall see.
They're the major ones, left back, centre back. Final one I want to bring up, Mark, just saying, all right, guys, what do you think about the idea of recalling Johnny Kenny to be our third striker? We can tackle that one also with the likes of McCowan, Danny Armstrong, Owen Beck, enhance the depth for squad potentially, and might help the whole homegrown thing as well. In terms of your first point, it's one that I actually thought about because Brendan Rodgers has spoken about this third striker and it ideally being a young player, and I wonder if the club potentially missed a trick by sending Johnny Kenny out on loan. I don't know how good Johnny Kenny is. He seems to be doing all right in Ireland, some Champions League goals and all of that stuff. It's obviously a very different level playing for Shamrock Rovers, isn't it, compared to Celtic. But would he be good in that third striker role? Would he get many minutes? But then again, it could maybe be an opportunity to learn from guys like Idah and Kyogo every day in training. So what's the thoughts on that, Ryan?
I think he's on loan with his
till November.
Until the end of the year. So it could be something that they look at, especially if they don't get anybody else in the transfer window in that position, that they can bring him back. They have Kyogo and Idah, and then they'll have potentially Johnny Kenny coming back into the fold in November. I'm not sure if he would he be able to play, or would you need to register him again? Would you be able to register him?
Yeah, he should be all right.
Yeah. So that could be something that they work on. I did see a couple of his goals, especially in Europe, and it's good to see him playing at that level, or playing at that sort of higher level than he is week in, week out at the moment in the League of Ireland. But yeah, he's a bit of an unknown quantity. But did they not sign Ange Postecoglou's first season, sort of developing in the background? It's either the first season or the second season. I know Postecoglou signed him. It's one that I don't really know too much about him. I know that he scored goal. He didn't have a great spell at Queen's Park, I believe, a couple of years ago. He gets sent back because he didn't really play that many games. But he could be a late bloomer, or not a late bloomer, because he's still 19, 20 years old. So he's still honing his craft. I'll point everybody to the late bloomer to end all late bloomers in Harry Kane. He didn't know his game until he was about 22, 23, and he couldn't stop scoring. But I don't know. I'd prefer if Celtic go and sign a younger player from somewhere else to develop in the background, develop alongside Idah and Kyogo. Those two will hog the minutes up front for Celtic, which is totally fine. Idah can play there too. But if you've got somebody just simmering away in the background, getting ready to come in, then that's good forward planning as well. I would be fine with that. Just as long as that position's covered, because you know how injuries happen, and you know how bad injuries can be, in which you can lose 2 strikers at the same time. You need to have someone that's willing and able to step up when required.
Yep. Anything else you want to discuss, Tony, just before we head off? Any final point?
Yeah, in terms of Johnny Kenny, he just seems to be kind of out of sight, out of mind. But whenever he does come into your mind, he's scoring goals in Ireland, and people say that's I get that it's a different level, but strikers are judged in scoring goals. And he's scoring goals for fun over in Ireland, and doing what's asked of him. I think he might be worthy of a shot. If the manager's saying a young guy to come in and see, and I think I would maybe be inclined to bring him back in November to see what he can learn of Kyogo and Idah. To say, look, study those two, because there will come a time when I'm going to come to you and ask you, to perform for me. So I would be inclined to do that, and then see what he's learned in Ireland from playing competitive football, and can he bring it back to Celtic? Lots of people question whether he's the standard required. You only find that out when they play. You can't make any kind of rash judgments on him. You've not seen enough sample size from Johnny Kenny. He's doing okay in Ireland. If you're keeping tabs on him, seems to be scoring some important goals at European level as well, as you've said, Hamish. So he's worth having a look at, isn't he? If it turns out not to be Johnny Kenny, then so be it. But you've not lost anything. But, give him a shot. Give him a shot to come in and be around that first team and be around top quality operators like Kyogo and Idah, and see what he's got, see what he can bring to the table, and see if he can, and he has the nous to learn. And I think the manager's like that. He likes to be able to, players to be malleable, so he can, twist them into shape. And I think if Johnny Kenny's bright and he does get called back, then he would certainly learn off the manager and learn off the two number one strikers that the manager has currently at his disposal.
Can I bring something up? Sorry, something that's just came out in the past 5 minutes. Atalanta have met with Lazar Samardzic, the other midfielder. That apparently there's an agreement close in personal terms for that midfielder, so that could put a real spanner in the works of Matt O'Reilly going to Atalanta. I'm not sure who. Udinese, he plays for Udinese midfielder, so that could be something different that's happening. And another twist in the Matt O'Reilly saga. I just wanted to bring that up before we finished.
Okay, thanks for that.
There's still 14 days to go, Ryan. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
I would be delighted if it was the 29th or even the 30th of August.
Yeah.
New day, new team enter Matt O'Reilly race. You know what it's like.
It's going to be a long couple of weeks. It's also going to be a quick couple of weeks in many ways. Right, okay, everyone, that will do us for today's morning briefing. We'll head off, and you guys will return over the course of the weekend, later today probably as well, knowing what you're like. Enjoy the game at the weekend, everyone. I will return on Monday. Speak to you then.